It would be almost impossible for you to have not heard about Twitter by now. Hi, I'm Barbara Nixon, and I blog at publicrelationsmatters.com. You can find me on Twitter at Barbara Nixon. Today I'm going to share with you Twitter in 140 minutes or fewer. Actually, it's way fewer. But let's start off with a test to see how much you might already know about Twitter. 140, what does that stand for? Well, that's the amount of characters that you can use in a Twitter message, which is known as a tweet. The @ sign is used to identify a reply that you're sending to another person. So if you wanted to write to me on Twitter and be sure that I saw it, you would put @Barbara Nixon all together with no spaces in between it, and then a space, and then your message to me. And then I would be able to find it really easily by checking my mentions in Twitter later on. RT. RT stands for retweet, which is kind of a fancy way of saying forward. In email, if someone forwards a message to you, they take the original message that someone sent and they send it on to you, sometimes with additional comments from themselves. The same idea holds for the retweets, where if you find an interesting message in Twitter and want to share it with others, you would retweet the message. And it's shortened to RT because in Twitter you only get 140 characters. We try to save as many spaces as possible. This looks like a pound sign, and it is, but in Twitter we call it a hashtag. And a hashtag is used to identify a keyword or phrase that someone is trying to track for a specific reason. For example, I went to a conference recently called Social Fresh, and in this Social Fresh conference, they encouraged us to use the hashtag SoFresh, SOFRESH, with this pound sign in front of it, so that anybody who was at the conference or people who weren't even there could search Twitter for things that were being said about the conference. Anything that we wrote with So Fresh in front of it would come up in a search. DM. DM stands for direct message, and it's like sending a text message directly to one other person. You would send an @ reply if you wanted everybody to be able to see it, but you'd send a direct message if it's only to one additional person. Now, this character right here is called the fail whale. Every now and then, Twitter gets overwhelmed. And when it does, and you're looking at Twitter on the web at twitter.com, this character will come up, and it's affectionately known as the fail whale. Many times I've noticed that if it comes up, if I just refresh my screen then, or maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, I can get back into Twitter again pretty easily. TweetDeck, Tweety, Tweed, and Seismic. These are all ways that you can use Twitter besides using it on the web. And I find that TweetDeck is my favorite for when I'm on my computer, but Tweed is my favorite for my Palm Pre. Those people that have iPhones or iTouch may prefer Tweety, and I know quite a few people use Seismic as well. The advantage to these, it just gives you an alternative way of looking at Twitter in a more visually pleasing format, and it lets me see more things than what I can see on just the twitter.com site. What's happening? That's the question that Twitter asks you when you get ready to write a message. It looks like this. It says, what's happening at the top? And in the area underneath what's happening, you type your message. The characters will start counting down from 140 to let you know how many characters you have left. When you're done typing your message, you just click update. But instead of what's happening, like I'm eating a pastrami sandwich, I like to think, what has captured your interest? So what's going on that you think is so interesting that other people might want to know about too? Recently, I said, updating and recording my Twitter What's in It for Me presentation for my students. We'll upload and share when I'm done. That may make someone else say, hey, could I get a copy of that? Or I'd like to know more about that, so it can start a conversation. So let's get into what I call everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM, What's in It for Me. You may be thinking, I've heard about Twitter, I know a little bit about what some of the characters mean in it, but I still don't understand why it would be valuable to me. Now, I am aiming this short presentation at public relations students, but you may find it valuable for almost everybody. Here's one way. Learn. I learn so much by getting on Twitter every day. I get news stories from there. I get links to articles that other people have written. I can't imagine really going a day without learning something new while I'm on Twitter. I learn from public relations professionals, news people, and most of all, from my students. Laugh. The second thing I like to do on Twitter is laugh. I follow quite a few people solely for the reason that they're funny, and I think we can all use a little bit of humor in our days. A third thing I do with Twitter is I share. If I find an article that's interesting, I'll send a link to that article to people who follow me. Or I might share an idea of something that I had just come up with. So I like to share what I have recently learned. Fourth thing that I do in Twitter is I network. I have created a pretty big network of PR professionals, and I've connected those professionals to my students at Georgia Southern University and Southeastern University. Some have even found leads for internships and jobs. But remember, who you're following is more important than who's following you. A lot of people, when they first get started with Twitter, they really want to know, how can I get more people to follow me? I want to have 100 or 1,000 followers. That's all well and good, but you really can't benefit from Twitter much until you're following people that are interesting and useful to you. So it's important to pick the right people to follow. I've created a starter pack for PR students at a site called tweepml.org. And this starter pack has about 60 public relations practitioners and news people in it that are really valuable for people who are getting started in public relations and using Twitter at the same time. So I would encourage you to go to tweepml.org and just search for Starter Pack for PR Students, and you'll find that list there. At the bottom of the list, you can click a button and it will automatically follow all of those people for you in Twitter. Now, it is important to keep it clean in Twitter. Think about what you're writing. Think about what impact what you're writing might have on other people. Don't put anything out there that you wouldn't want your family members or a potential employer to see. Because once it's written, you can delete it. But if someone has already forwarded it to another person, if they've already retweeted it, it's out there and you can't make that come back. So be careful with what you say and your tone and how you say it when you're using Twitter. But wait, there's more. I want to share a couple more things related to social media that I like to do on a daily or weekly basis that help me keep up with what's going on in the world of social media. There are 3 things. First off, Inside PR. I listen to Inside PR every Wednesday when it's published, and it comes out from David Jones, who goes by the name of Dr. Jones on Twitter, and Terry Follis and Martin Waxman. It's a 20 to 25-minute podcast. I learn a lot about Canadian public relations, but public relations in general on there. What I like about this one is occasionally they'll have interviews with other people, and they don't always agree with each other on there. And I think that's a great thing to share the different perspectives. I also like at the end of their podcast now, they have what they call their 30s, which are a 30-second snippet of information, just their viewpoint on a particular topic. Another podcast that I've been listening to for 2 years now is For Immediate Release, the Hobson and Holtz Report. And Shell Holtz and Neville Hobson share an hour twice a week with us with news and views from around the world. And I use examples from their podcasts in my classes on a regular basis. You can find both of those podcasts in iTunes very easily. You can subscribe for free. The third thing that I've started doing is reading Reagan's PR Daily News Feed. And what I like about Reagan's PR Daily News Feed is it comes into my email and has excerpts from stories that may be interesting. And I share those in my classes on a regular basis too. So Inside PR And for immediate release, I listen to those every week and I read Reagan's PR Daily every day. Quite often, I'll take information that I've learned in those podcasts or the daily news feed, and I'll share that out on Twitter so that other people can learn from it. If you'd like to contact me about Twitter or really about anything related to public relations or social media, you can find me. My email is bnixon@georgiasouthern.edu, or you can find me on Twitter @BarbaraNixon. You can also find me on Skype at barbara.b.nixon. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this short presentation, I blog at publicrelationsmatters.com. I hope that listening to this short presentation today has given you the spark to make you want to try out Twitter and see if it might be useful for you. Bye-bye.